Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and I'll be talking about every single ranged weapon in Space Marine 2 patch 12 and ranking them. Now, we will be covering all the primary and secondary options on this list, and before I even get into this, I do want to say that no weapon in Space Marine 2 right now feels truly god-awful, but some do definitely overperform and some do underperform, but every weapon can be taken into like all content in Space Marine 2 outside of like crazy hard strats and like super high siege waves. Now, the first one I'll be talking about here is the auto bolt rifle. The auto bolt rifle is hilariously enough the closest weapon in this game to actually being god awful, mainly because it has the most limited perk tree in the entire game of any bolt rifle option or really any ranged weapon in the entire game period. And Saber Interactive has actively come out and said that this weapon will always underperform compared to other bolt rifle options because their intention was to combine this weapon into the bolt rifle here and have as like an option for the variants, but they couldn't do that without breaking saves, so they currently left it as is, which has kind of firmly left it as like the most underperforming option of any weapon in the game. And for that reason, I would firmly put it in the D tier, only because there is no reason to take this one over other options, though if you want to, it will still do pretty well, especially on TAC, where you have things like Crack and Penetrator rounds and Relentless Pursuit as a perk, on top of things like Aligned Aim to buff up the damage. But like everywhere else, like Techmarine, it's just god awful, so I would put it in D. It's kind of like the meme gun of the whole community. Now, the next weapon we'll be talking about here is the auto bolt rifle, but better in pretty much every single way, and that is the heavy bolt rifle. Now, the heavy bolt rifle has received quite a few buffs over the course of the game's life cycle, and currently I would say it's in a pretty decent spot. The main places performs well is against Minoris with decent damage to Majoris, Extremis, and even bosses. But that being said, I do think there are better bolt options in the game, and even though they did add a top tier heroic variant on this weapon this patch, I am only talking about the relic tier here, so for that reason, I would put the heavy bolt rifle in B. It is a pretty good gun. The CHP recovery here is quite powerful, the damage is decent, the ammo economy is quite strong, but like I said before, there are a few better options. Now, the next weapon here is the Stalker bolt rifle. This is the premier Zoanthrope and Neurothrope killer on the tactical class in Space Marine 2 currently. When you put down an Auspex and hit all of your headshots with this weapon, you will just melt a boss's HP bar. It is absolutely incredible how much single target damage this does. The CHP recovery is tremendous because of the single target damage, and all the variants like the headshot multiplier, ammo reserve, and rate of fire options are top tier. I would say this one firmly goes into the A. I would not quite put it in S, only because some weapons are truly godly in this game, but this one is definitely in the upper tiers for sure. The next weapon here is the standard bolt rifle. Now, this weapon is kind of interesting. We'll talk about the grenade launcher one in a second, but the standard like gun options here, I'm a fan of the ×2 headshot multiplier version. That one does feel really good on TAC. On Techmarine, this gun just kind of sucks in my opinion, but like for the most part, I would say it is similar in performance to the Stalker bolt rifle on that headshot multiplier version, as long as you are taking it on the tactical class. So I would say you can go into like a low A, maybe a high B. Like, it's a good gun. Like the ×2 headshot multiplier, it does hit like a truck. The ammo economy is completely solved by the Tactical's Emperor's Vengeance perk, but on Techmarine, this gun does kind of blow, and I would probably put it in like C or B for him. But overall in the game, I still think it's worthy of A tier because TAC does take like full advantage of this. Next weapon here is the grenade launcher variant of the bolt rifle. The grenade launcher is an incredible tool in this game still. Now, way back when in the history of Space Marine 2, you used to get back all 10 grenades or like, all 12 grenades on every single Emperor's Vengeance trigger in this game. That was ridiculously OP. They did nerf that. Now you only get one, but that being said, if you put down Auspex scan while you have a grenade launcher, you will one-shot like pretty much any pack of Majoris with precise calibration and concentrated fire as like your perk equips for the Auspex scan to buff up their damage. This is a top tier gun in siege mode as well, because you can just buy ammo boxes and spam the Auspex scan over and over, and the CHP recovery is very high. The stagger helps out a lot. I do think this gun should probably be in the S tier. It's kind of hard not to put it there. The grenade launcher, just being the top tier option in siege, does just kind of firmly put it up here for me. But even if you want to lower it down, because in other modes it's a little bit worse, even in operations and hard strats, I still think this thing does a ton of damage and really does take full advantage of the Auspex scan, though on Techmarine, once again, it does kind of suck compared to the other options. So I would say we can put it in high A for now. A really good option, S tier in siege mode for sure, but I would put it down here for like other modes. Now, the next weapon we'll be talking about here is the fully automatic bolt carbine variant. This has been one of the stronger guns in Space Marine 2 for quite a while now. The contested health recovery is top tier here, the ammo economy is top tier, and the damage is very strong if you land every headshot at point blank, because within 10 meters of an enemy on this gun, you will get an increase in your headshot multiplier, which does help out the damage tremendously, and the magazine capacity here lets you fire like forever, so it's a really good option on like every single class it is on. I would firmly put this in the A tier. You really cannot go wrong with this thing. If you take the ammo reserve option, you can build into the home precision perk to like reduce your maximum weapon spread while hip firing, which means you get the full benefit of an ammo reserve option and like no accuracy loss. So a really strong gun, definitely up here. Next weapon here is the Marksman Carbine. Now, in patch 12, they actually buffed up the ammo reserve option of this thing to be a bit better, and by a bit better, I mean it now has like equivalent headshot damage to the ×2 headshot multiplier version, and I already put this one in the A tier before in like patch 11 and patch 10 because the ×2 headshot multiplier version was very strong, and now we just have a better variant that has solved the ammo economy entirely for this thing, so it is definitely A. I think both of the bolt carbine variants are very strong in the game currently, and like as far as bolt options go, all the bolters in a pretty good spot, as you can see here up in the A, so definitely up here along his cousin, the automatic variant. Now, the next weapon we'll be talking about here is the Instigator bolt carbine. Now, I have quite a few thoughts on this weapon. Now, I know I said I would not be talking about the heroic variants on this tier list that much, but on this weapon in particular, it is very hard not to, because the heroic Instigator Carbine is better than the relic tier in pretty much every single way. You have better base damage, you have a 5-round burst mechanic over the standard 3-round burst on this one, and the only place the relic tier Instigator Carbine really overperforms is at like a long range compared to the heroic version. But when you're taking an Instigator bolt carbine, you're probably going for like medium to close range combat anyways, so it's really not that useful in my opinion. I would firmly put this weapon in the C tier. I do think it's one of the weaker guns in the entire game currently, and it's not like god awful by any means. Like, you can still use it, it's just not remotely as good as other options, and that's why I'm putting it down here. Next weapon is the god tier weapon of Space Marine 2 in my opinion, and that is the Pyreblaster. The Pyreblaster has single-handedly caused gas prices to raise by $17. This weapon is truly a god tier gun. It is a ridiculously potent weapon on the tactical class. It has a burn damage that will melt bosses and scale up with aspect scan and difficulty. It is so powerful in this game that the only place it really suffers is CHP recovery. I've seen some people talk about this gun and say the Pyreblaster is like not that good against chaos. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. This gun melts all competition outside of like the most ridiculously high siege waves on chaos just because you don't have the CHP recovery and things like some of the crazier hard strats where you just get blown up in like 2 seconds. But besides that, this weapon is firmly in the S. Its perk tree is better than the Pyrecannon. Its like class synergy with tactical is absolutely absurd. You can pretty much just take things like plasma boost and versatility on top of stuff like secure stockpile and lose basically no damage. Pyreblaster is that gun. I think it is the best gun in all Space Marine 2, and it's going firmly up here in the S. And now the next weapon here is the Pyreblaster, but worse, and it's called the Pyrecannon. Now the burn effect here is almost just as potent as the Pyreblaster. In fact, you can apply burn a bit faster on this gun, the Pyreblaster, but the big issue here is class synergy. The Pyrecannon is just not as good because it's on heavy, because heavy just does not have the same perk combos that tactical does. You don't get aspect scan, you don't get secure stockpile, you don't get Emperor's Vengeance to solve your ammo economy. This gun is not bad by any means, but you also don't have a melee weapon on the heavy class, and that means you are losing out on even more CHP recovery, and you are pretty much limited to your secondary to like give you a proper contested health recovery when you're using this thing. And that's true on the tactical as well, but tactical also has a melee weapon, and tactical also just has way better perks for keep away, like Radiant Impact and stuff like that off a single execute, and also the perk tree is a bit better on this one. It also feels like the range is a bit better as well. So I would say the Pyrecannon is still very strong because the Pyrecannon does put out the top tier burn effect that the Pyreblaster does, but I would put it over in like the A tier, maybe even the B sometimes. I know I put it like in A or like S in the past, but like that's mainly because of the burn effect, because the burn effect here is definitely S tier, but like as far as class synergy goes, the Pyrecannon is just not remotely as good as the Pyreblaster is on tack for the heavy class, so I would put it here in A for now. Now the next weapon here is the Bolt Sniper Rifle. Now, the Bolt Sniper Rifle is once again a single target damage weapon, just like the Stalker Bolt Rifle. I know who would have thought it is called a Bolt Sniper Rifle after all. The main issue with this gun is that it is kind of completely overshadowed by not only its heroic tier variant, but also the last Fusil Sniper, because this one is not only more ammo efficient, but also more damaging, and also just way more forgiving to use. So there is really no reason to use a standard Bolt Sniper Rifle, unless you want like an instantaneous CHP recovery from like an insta shot and have to charge up anything, or like you don't trust yourself to use a heroic Bolt Sniper and run out of ammo. So for that reason, I would probably say the Bolt Sniper Rifle goes into like B or C tier. I mean, the damage here is very strong as long as you're hitting your headshots. The ammo economy is not too bad because you do get to use all the ammo reserve options on this thing, like reload, restoration, and versatile precision, unlike the heroic variant. But as far as general comparison to other options go, I just don't think it's that high up on the list. I'll put it in B to be nice because it is B for Bolt Sniper, but the last Fusil is definitely better, and the heroic tier variant is way better. Now, the next weapon here is the last Fusil Sniper Rifle. Now, outside the heroic Bolt Sniper, I think this is the best sniper weapon in the game, besides like maybe the Stalker Bolt Rifle. The Horde Clear here is top tier, the ammo economy is top tier, the headshot damage with perks like Targeted Shot is incredible. It has great synergy with the sniper class. You really can't go wrong with this gun, and I would probably say it goes firmly in the top of A, or maybe even the S. I'll put in low S. I think this gun really is very strong. When you are fighting off like a horde of Zangors or Hormigons and you just fire into them, get all of your HP back on top of saving all of your ammo from lethal efficiency, that is a really good feeling. There are multiple ways to build this weapon to be very strong on both the ammo variant, the rate of fire variant, and the firepower variant, and the headshot multiplier damage here with targeted shot, like I said before, is very strong. It's also very good versus bosses like the Neurothrope, just like the Bolt Sniper. So I would say it can go up into the low S because it has all the benefits of this gun, not including the heroic version, on top of having a way easier time being used because it's just a way more forgiving gun in general. Now, the next weapon here is the Melta Rifle. Now, the Melta Rifle's a funny gun. When the game first came out, there was a healing bug attached to this weapon where like you could fire into a horde of enemies and just full HP heal. There were like 50 trillion vanguards running around and flaming their teammates with this gun, saying like, oh, why do you guys suck? Why is everybody else dying? And I have all this HP healing. Since then, they did nerf that bug, but they also did buff it up in other ways. They gave it a bit of a perk tree rework, where now it has things like Trick Shot to recover your HP. It also has healing perks like Rapid Health attached to it, and really good ammo economy perks like Decisive Reload, and also variants like the range variant had their range damage fall off buffed up a while back. And overall, I'd say the Melta Rifle is in a very strong spot. It is one of the best guns on Vanguard, especially for new players still, and it's also one of the best guns on the Tactical for Chaos, because Chaos kind of gets cooked by the Melta Rifle. Having a HP heal attached to your gun on top of armor, on top of ammo economy is incredible, and for that reason, I would put this one up in A as well. I think the Melta Rifle is a very strong gun. I put it in B before, but when they buffed up the range variant, I think it really did get pushed up a bit higher. If you have not tried out the range variant of this weapon, I definitely would, because it really does perform quite well. That's pretty much all there is for this one, but the next one here is the Occulus Bolt Carbine. Now, for the longest time, the Occulus Bolt Carbine was only available on the Vanguard class, but in patch 12, we do have the brand new Techmarine class, and he has access to this gun. And if we were just talking about the Vanguard, I would probably put this weapon in the B tier or maybe the C tier because it's really not that strong on him. I mean, the ×2 headshot multiplier variant is pretty good for him, but for the most part, this weapon really shines on Techmarine because Techmarine has the chained headshots perk on his prestige perk option to buff up his headshot damage on consecutive headshots, just like Tactical. You also have the long range barrage perk to up your damage at long range, and all of those fit perfectly on this gun. It feels way better for Techmarine because Techmarine's kind of a keep away class, and for that reason, I probably would move it up in the A. I know we have a lot of guns in the A tier right now, but I really do feel like the guns on this tier list do perform pretty similarly to each other, at least for the classes they're good on. I don't really want to put him down in the B. Like, maybe we could put him at the top of B. The Occulus Carbine, like, maybe it doesn't perform quite as well as like the Bolt Rifle on TAC and stuff like that, but I would say it's a pretty good spot. It's in a pretty good spot. This gun's pretty good on Techmarine. Definitely not that strong on the Vanguard. It's not even like god awful there, but for the most part, I would just take this on Tech. And for the Vanguard, I would stick with the newly buffed Marksman Carbine because it kind of does everything better than this gun does currently. That's how like CHP recovery. But for the most part, We're going to put it here in B. Maybe that's a little controversial. Maybe someone wants to put it in A, but let me know in the comments below. For now, I'm putting it here. Now, the next weapon here is the Heavy Bolter. This is the top tier, fully automatic weapon in Space Marine 2 for the Heavy class. It is a really strong gun at the moment. We're not talking about the heroic variant in this game currently, which is a top tier gun for heavy, period. But as far as DACA goes, I think this is probably the best fully automatic weapon in the entire game at the moment, outside like things like the rapid plasma fire on the heroic plasma variant, and I would firmly put it up in the A tier. There's not much to say about the Heavy Bolter other than that it does a ton of damage, it has a great ammo economy, and the heavy class itself is very tanky to take full advantage of that. So I think the Heavy Bolter is not quite in the S just because there are a few better guns I'll get into, but definitely in the A tier here, so that's where I'm gonna put it for now. Next weapon is the Heavy Plasma. This gun is just like the nuke machine on the heavy class. This is one of the best guns for heavy since the game came out, pretty much. It really has not been changed at all. The only thing really holding this gun back is the god-awful ammo economy. It is a very ammo-hungry gun, and because it does do so much damn damage, but both the common shots, the charge shots, all of that are very strong on this thing. It is really hard to go wrong on like any build setup with a Heavy Plasma because it just does ridiculous amounts of damage. You can one-shot Majora's packs, you can do tremendous damage to multiple bosses at once. It has great synergy with Auspex because of that like AoE plasma hit, and for the most part, I just put it up in the S tier. I think it's hard not to put it up here because it really is just a top tier gun in the game. I still think it's Heavy's best weapon overall, besides the next one we'll get into, which is the Multi-Melta. The Multi-Melta, every time I take this gun to a match, I'm like, wait a second, I forgot this game was just on easy mode all the time, because the Multi-Melta just overperforms against both Chaos and Tyranids. You may run out of ammo occasionally on like the non-ammo reserve option, but to be honest, this weapon is quite ammo efficient, and even though the per shot damage is not as high as it used to be, or I should say the DPS is not as high as it used to be, because they did remove the double shot mechanic where like your heavy stance and normal hip fire were on separate cooldowns, it's still a top tier gun in Space Marine 2 because it was a top tier gun way before that was ever a thing. Now, it may not be like the strongest weapon ever for like every game mode in Space Marine 2, but on hard strats and operations especially, this gun just kind of like easy mode clears them all with like the proper setup. So I would put it firmly in the S as well. I do think it's a bit below Heavy Plasma currently because of that double shot nerf, but you really can't go wrong with the Multi-Melta. It will just make your entire life easier, and especially for new players, this gun, you'll just equip it to your heavy and you won't die, or like you'll probably die significantly less, so definitely a great option. Now, the next weapon here is the standard Plasma Incinerator. This weapon is available in both the Tactical and Techmarine class, and Techmarine has definitely shown the base Plasma Incinerator is not that strong at all in Space Marine 2. It really does need the Tactical to make it good. Like, this weapon on Tac is pretty strong. I probably put in like the B or A tier, but if we're talking about just Techmarine, this one's probably going in the C tier. It's probably his weakest gun currently. The ammo economy on this thing is trash, that Emperor's Vengeance. The damage is pretty mediocre at best, even with long-range barrage, like some other things like explosive enfilade on the Techmarine, and for the most part, I'm surprised they did not buff up this weapon before they launched patch 12, because Techmarine feels pretty bad with this. I'll probably put it over here on like the B just because it is very strong on tac, but for the most part, I think it needs a buff, and I think they should definitely do that like some point in the next hotfix or two, but we'll see what they do in the future. For now, Plasma Incinerator, pretty good gun on tac, not very strong on Techmarine, and there are definitely better options. Now, we have finished with all the primaries here, and now we're moving on to the secondary weapons, starting off with the buffed Inferno Pistol. Now, the Inferno Pistol got a 22% gun strike damage buff this patch, and now I think this gun is great. I mean, I was always a big fan of the Inferno Pistol. The ammo economy on this thing is amazing. The stagger is quite nice, so you will one-shot Hormagaunts to get armor back on a drip feed, and on the Techmarine, it's pretty nice to have, though I will say there's currently a bug with this weapon on Techmarine, where your servo gun strike range is limited when you have this gun, just like the gun strike range on this thing is in base, which is definitely not intended. But even with that being said, I'm going to put this one up in the A tier. I think this is actually a pretty good gun at the moment, and you really can't go wrong with this one. Next weapon here is the Neo Volkite. Now, the Neo Volkite, I think, is currently the worst secondary for classes like Assault or Bulwark, mainly because the CHP recovery here is like entirely dependent on having the explosion from your Neo Volkite like laser beam heating up the guy. Without that, like the standard laser beam CHP recovery is god awful. Where I think the Neo Volkite is quite strong is on classes like Vanguard and Techmarine, because they have primary weapons already that like kind of handle the CHP recovery for them on the range portion, and that means that they can take full advantage of that free like AoE nuke that they can do, on top of just having a really strong gun versus spore mines and cultists and stuff like that, because you will just like shoot out a super high capacity laser beam that will one-shot all of them, which is really good for. So I put this one up in the B tier here. I think it's like a pretty good spot for it. I do think it's on like the weaker end of secondaries currently. It's by no means bad, but like I wouldn't really put it above the Inferno Pistol or some of the other options. Next weapon here is the standard bolt pistol. This one got buffed up in patch 11. I do still think it is like overall below the heavy bolt pistol. It does have some pretty good perks, stuff like Elite Hunter and stuff like that for 50% bonus headshot damage on a melee kill or like melee execute for 10 seconds. That's pretty strong. It also has like probably the coolest champion skin in the entire game with the Raven Guard champion that will let it be like a suppressed sound effect. That is also really cool, and I would say it probably goes into the B tier. It's about as good as the Neo Volkite. Like no secondary in Space Marine 2 right now is particularly bad. I'd probably put it a little bit above the Neo Volkite, only because the CHP recovery here is way more manageable on Assault and Bulwark than Neo Volkite is. Though, that being said, I think there are better options currently, and that includes the Inferno Pistol and the next gun, which is the Heavy Bolt Pistol. The Heavy Bolt Pistol has the highest gun strike damage in the game on its heroic variant, and even the standard versions are also very, very high for the most part. Like, there are a few instances where I think you can go a little bit higher on other options, but the Heavy Bolt Pistol, it's a great gun. The ammo economy on the relative variants is very strong. The firepower option hits like a truck on the gun strike damage, is one of the better secondaries in the entire game, and for a while there, it actually like power crept every single other option in Space Marine 2, and I would still firmly put this one in the S tier. I do think it is a top tier secondary, especially for things like Zoanthropes and Neurothropes. So like if you're a Bulwark or an Assault, having this makes your life like 10 times easier against them, so I'm definitely putting it up here. Next weapon is the Plasma Pistol. Now, the Plasma Pistol has incredible CHP recovery, incredible damage, and incredible stagger. This is absolutely a top tier secondary in the entire game, if not like the single best secondary in the entire game. If you equip a tac with like Plasma Boost and versatility with an Auspex, you can pretty much like nuke a boss down very quickly if you get like a parry on them. Really strong weapon, one of the best in the entire game. I would actually put this above the Heavy Bolt Pistol currently just because of how much damage it does, and it's firmly up here in the S. And that is everything for the primary and secondary weapon tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Where would you rank the weapons currently? I think most people agree like Heavy Plasma, Pyreblaster, Multi-Melta, Last Fusil, these are very top tier guns. Heavy Bolter is also very strong. I think where like people might disagree a bit is on things like Plasma Incinerator, Neo Volkite, or like the standard bolt pistol, or maybe even like the Heavy Bolt Rifle. But let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and take it easy. Bye.